Marcus, he looked at the man who had humiliated him, abandoned him, belittled him, and felt the truth pressing against his chest like a weight he could no longer carry. But what this arrogant tech CEO didn't know, was that the boy standing in front of him wasn't just any intern. He was his own son. And when the truth came out, the mighty CEO's empire would tremble. Marcus Lee was only 19. Fresh out of community college, he landed an internship at Orion Technologies, the empire of billionaire CEO Victor Kane, a man feared across the industry. But Marcus wasn't like the other interns. He wore second-hand clothes, carried a worn-out backpack, and spoke with a quiet humility that made him invisible to most. To Victor Kane, that invisibility was proof. Proof that Marcus was weak. Proof that he was just another nobody, destined to serve men like him. But Victor had no idea the irony of his cruelty, that fate had placed his greatest humiliation right in front of him. It happened during a company-wide pitch session. Interns were invited to share new ideas, a tradition Victor used more for entertainment than innovation. Marcus nervously stepped forward, clutching his laptop. He had spent nights building an algorithm, a program that could save the company millions in data efficiency. But before he could even finish his first sentence, Victor smirked. "Hold on. Is that a thrift store shirt? And you expect me to take financial advice from you?" The room erupted in laughter. Executives chuckled. Interns lowered their heads, afraid to be next. Marcus's ears burned red, but he kept speaking. His voice shook, but his passion was clear. Victor cut him off again. "Tell me, kid, did you copy this from YouTube, or is it your cousin's science project?" The laughter was harsher this time. And Marcus, humiliated, closed his laptop and returned to his seat in silence. Victor smiled, certain he had reminded everyone who held the power in that room. But what he didn't realize was that his cruelest joke was aimed at his own flesh and blood. Marcus spent the night staring at his reflection in the cracked bathroom mirror of his tiny apartment. The humiliation replayed in his mind like a nightmare. But he refused to give up. His mother, who had raised him alone, had always told him, "Never let anyone tell you you're not enough. One day, the world will see who you are." And so, Marcus made a decision. He would finish his program. He would perfect it. And one day, he would prove that the man who mocked him was wrong. Days later, while Victor bragged about his company's future to investors, Marcus quietly submitted his algorithm to the operations team. To everyone's shock, it worked flawlessly. Costs dropped. Efficiency soared. Executives whispered about the genius intern who had done what entire teams couldn't. But Victor, he dismissed it. Victor said, "Beginner's luck. Let's not overpraise mediocrity." What he didn't realize was that Marcus wasn't just proving himself to the company. With every line of code, every small victory, Marcus was unknowingly walking closer to a truth that would destroy Victor's pride forever. One evening, Marcus was called into HR. He panicked, thinking he was about to be fired. Instead, the director handed him a file. HR director said to him, "Marcus, we've been reviewing your paperwork. There's something unusual about your file." Marcus frowned. "Unusual?" The director hesitated, then pushed the folder across the desk. Inside were sealed adoption records, tied to a confidential note in the company's private archive. Marcus's hands shook as he read the name. Father, Victor Kane. He dropped the file, his heart pounding. The man who had humiliated him, mocked him, reduced him to nothing in front of everyone, was his father. Marcus stumbled out of the office, the truth spinning in his mind. Rage, shock, confusion. But one thing became clear, this wasn't just about proving his worth anymore. It was about confronting the man who had abandoned him, then humiliated him without even knowing. And when Marcus finally stood face to face with Victor Kane, the world would see the fall of a man who thought he could never be touched. The moment had finally come. The intern Victor Kane mocked, the boy he humiliated in front of his empire, now stood face to face with him. But Victor didn't know the truth yet. He didn't know that nobody he had crushed with laughter was his own son. And when Marcus spoke, the boardroom would never be the same again. The quarterly board meeting was packed. Investors, executives, and department heads filled the sleek glass room. Victor, dressed in his usual tailored suit, stood at the head of the table, boasting about Orion's innovations. But then, Marcus was invited in. Some executives exchanged glances. The intern, here. Victor smirked when he saw him. Victor said, "Back again, boy. What is it this time? Another thrift store presentation?" The room chuckled uneasily. But Marcus didn't flinch. His eyes burned with a calm fire Victor had never seen before. Marcus placed his laptop on the table, hands steady. I'm here to present results. My algorithm has already saved this company $4 million in operational costs. Numbers don't lie. And unlike words, they can't be mocked away. The boardroom shifted. Executives leaned forward. Murmurs rippled. Victor's smile faltered. Anyone could have done that. This is coincidence. Beginner's luck, Victor said. But Marcus wasn't done. He clicked again, pulling up projections. Efficiency gains. Investor returns. Hard evidence. The room was silent now, not in mockery, but in awe. And Victor Kane was losing control of his kingdom. Victor slammed his fist on the table. You think a kid like you can outshine me? I built this empire from the ground up. You're nothing but an intern. Marcus's voice cut through the room like a blade. Marcus calmly said, maybe I am just an intern. But sometimes, the people you dismiss as nothing are closer to you than you think. Victor froze, confused. The words unsettled him, though he didn't yet understand why. The irony was crushing. The man who had laughed at Marcus for being beneath him was unknowingly lashing out at his own blood. The board began whispering, questioning Victor's judgment, praising Marcus's brilliance. Investors demanded Victor take Marcus seriously. For the first time in years, Victor felt the ground shift beneath him. His authority was cracking. And Marcus? He looked at the man who had humiliated him, abandoned him, belittled him, and felt the truth pressing against his chest like a weight he could no longer carry. He reached into his bag and pulled out the file, the adoption records, the proof. His voice shook, but his eyes stayed locked on Victor. Marcus said calmly, maybe you should pay closer attention to the people you look down on, Victor. Because sometimes, they're closer than family. The boardroom fell silent. Victor's face drained of color. His mouth opened, but no words came out. The arrogant billionaire who thought he knew everything was staring at a truth that could destroy him, not just as a CEO, but as a man. And when Marcus finally revealed those words, when he finally said who he really was, the entire empire of Victor Kane would shake to its core.